Good morning, everybody. Today's little project is going to be actually working on the mill, not making any parts, but we're working on the mill. And you see I got my quill handle out. My clock spring decided to give way, and here's the clock spring. You can see that slot on the end just kind of tore out. And it looks like it's been wearing pretty good, and it's fatigued and pretty messed up. The inner is okay. That slot on the inside's all right, but that outer's pretty boogered up. I'm going to attempt to repair this is a hardened spring, and it's spring steel obviously, but I'm going to be just take a Dremel with a cutoff wheel and just cut across and create a new slot right here, and then I'm going to show you how to wind it up, or the way I wind them up, and get them back in the housing. And it's probably a little unique, but to you, but it's easily done with stuff that's around a machine shop. I've seen people with spring winders and all kinds of stuff you can buy on eBay, and you actually don't need it. So let me, I'm going to get this in the vise and get ready to do a little Dremel cutting and create a new slot in this thing, and then we'll go from there. All right. Okay, now here I've started cutting my slot. I broke the end of this off. I actually just bent it a couple of times, and it was fatigued. You can see where it's been rubbing, and it was pretty fatigued, so it just snapped right off. And I've done my rough cuts with a Dremel cutoff wheel, and it's just this little guy here, just a simple cutoff wheel. And got in there and made my two side cuts, and then I cut the whole thing in an X. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to dress this end and this end with a round grinding stone, and try to duplicate that bottom piece of hole right there. I just clamped this on as a pattern, and with a couple pairs of vice grips, and then scribed it with a carbide scribe to get my hole size and my hole spacing and everything. But that's the first cut, is just doing that with a cutoff wheel. Stay tuned. Okay, so here I've created the new slot, and everything's polished, and it's kind of important to deburr all of your stuff. That's anywhere a crack can start, you know, when you're using those cutoff wheels on the side. Make sure you stop short. And I just use a mounted grinding stone on the Dremel, little tiny thing. That's a sanding wheel I got in there and polished it with when I was done, and I had just a little stone I got in there and made those radiuses. You obviously can't cut or mill the spring steel. It's just easier to do it with a grinding stone. So, and then I followed it up with a Scotch-Brite wheel and just polished everything. And when you're all done, get all the abrasive out of your spring, because the spring just rides on itself, you know, when it's working. And if you get any abrasives in there, it's going to just grind itself to death. So throw in the parts washer and give it a quick wash and clean it all out and get all the abrasives out of there when you're done. But we're going to put this in, and I'm going to show you how to compress this spring. I'm actually going to use a different camera on a mag mount and show you how I compress springs and get them down to the right size. Okay, so now we're at the vise here on the bench, and I've got a 6-inch 3-jaw chuck bolted in some soft jaws. Now you can do this on the lathe just as easily, but it was off the lathe, so I just stuck it in the vise real quick. So you're just going to drop your spring in, and you're going to start compressing your 3-jaw. I suppose you could use a 6-jaw scrolling. Any scrolling chuck's going to work, but you just get it so it's so we're started squishing here. And you take a little pair of vice grips, get a hold of that inner, and you're going to kind of just spin that spring around and keep compressing it, and keep closing your chuck. So you just keep giving it a spin, and this is dangerous. You know, you don't ever want this, let the spring get away from you. It can be pretty violent. But little turn, and a little closure on the 3-jaw, and a little turn,
a little closure on the 3-jaw. Just keep it rolling like that. And you want to keep your hand on top of it, so if it's going to explode out. For God's sakes, wear safety glasses and any other safety equipment you feel necessary for winding a spring like this. And you want to keep rolling it and just keep letting it slip like that. This tail end is slipping by and moving over to the next post or the next jaw. So just keep that going, and keep winding your inner spring and keep closing your 3-jaw, and eventually you'll get down to a size where you can insert it back into the housing. And I'll show you. And if you're never going to lose your place. If you let go like that, the jaws are going to hold it. So we've got kind of a nice little solid fixture here for compressing a spring. And I've seen a million ways to do this, but we got creative one day and did this. You got to get these things pretty small. Get it in that housing. I think we're about small enough there. It's pretty tiny. Let me measure it, because here's my housing here. So let's measure this and measure this, and I'm pretty sure we're small enough. So we'll check it anyways. Just a shade over 1.5 inches, 14 thousandths over. No, yeah, this is 1.7. So yeah, we're in good shape. That should drop in with no problems. Now you take your vice grips off here, and you want to pinch the entire assembly here. And only about halfway down. You need room to get it in the housing. You click that, and now you can undo your vice jaws, and you got a spring stack all preloaded and ready to go. And this is just going to drop in the housing, just like that. And the end of this spring has to catch on that pin right there. And you need to make sure that you slip a screwdriver in there and make sure you're going to be able to get that. But that's the name of that tune. Pretty simple. And here we're back, and we've got our spring stack down inside of our housing. I'm over on the other camera now. So now it's just a matter of slipping this in there. And oh, by the way, at the end of the spring, you have to make sure it catches on that pin. And you do that by winding this inside until that thing drops on. And then take a screwdriver or a putty knife and slip it in there and make sure it indexes on that pin. And then the inner part of the spring, you're going to be going in there. There's a little hooked, I don't even know what to call that thing, just a little hooked pin that needs to catch on the other side of the spring. And that, I never had any trouble with those. Those usually snag pretty good. So you're just going to take this whole thing and spin it around until it hooks in that hole, which we just did. And now what you do is take a pin spanner and put it on here, and you're going to go about 2.5 or 3 turns until the counterweight of the spindle just starts to feel good. You know, that's kind of a personal preference thing, but let me wind that spring here in the machine, and I'll show you what the quill feels like when we're done. And here we are. We got it all finished up and installed, and we'll take the quill lock off here real quick. And I don't really like quills when they snap back. Not like a drill press. I just kind of want the quill to hover wherever I put it. So here's all the positions. And it's just kind of staying wherever I put it. So that's actually just the way I like it right there. I can give it another half turn, and it would probably, when I pull it down and release it, it'd probably snap back up, and this thing could come around and smack me in the chin or whatever. But I'm pretty happy with them when they hover the way that one is. So like I say, it's not a drill press. So that's how you shorten a spring.
And reuse an old spring. You can probably cut them off 2 or 3 times before they get too short, and you have to actually replace them. But all you need is it takes about an hour to do everything. Pull it all out, get it apart. 3-jaw chuck to compress the spring, and a Dremel with a cutoff wheel and a little round grinding stone will get your clock spring fixed back up and back in place.